Okay, so hey guys, welcome back to another Access 72 video, and in today's video I'm back with another interview, and I'm here with Jonny Parsons. Jonny, how are we doing, mate?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
It is a pleasure to have you on the channel, mate, and so am I right in saying you're a 31-year-old welterweight who's 8-3?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, so we'll get straight into the question, which I always like to start off with, and that is, why did you start MMA?
Man, when I was a young kid, um, ran into, started kind of boxing in the backyard with
Mm,
friends after school and stuff like that, and you know, started to see the shift in respect,
mm,
and then started getting into street fights and stuff like that, and kind of seeing the respect growing.
mm,
You know what I mean? As far as like, oh, you know, Johnny can fight.
yeah.
Oh, like when we started getting in trouble and stuff, people always wanted to make sure I was around.
Mm,
Because they knew I was always ready to throw down. So kind of that's when I really started to kind of almost get addicted to that. Like,
mm,
oh man, like people respect me because of this.
mm.
So kind of got hooked on that. But then, once I got into a gym, I started to really, respect the martial arts side of things and kind of invest in growing in that aspect.
Mm. Of course, and so for your kind of amateur background, do you remember what happened in your first amateur fight?
Yeah, my first amateur Muay Thai fight was in 2009, and
Mm,
yeah, I got a third round knockout.
mm. Wow, it's a good start for you then. And so, from your whole kind of amateur experience, what would you say was your biggest achievement?
Um, uh, I was 6-1 in amateur Muay Thai, and I kind of finished off with winning a there's a sanctioning body out here called the USMTA,
Mm,
and I won the USMTA tri-state title.
mm,
It was a title between three states over here in the U.S.: California, Arizona, and Nevada.
mm.
So I was an amateur tri-state champion.
Wow, okay, fair play, mate. And so, for yourself, I mean, now you are professional and you're very comfortable in the professional side of things. Of course, you've gotten a good few fights under your belt now, but why did you end up turning professional when you did?
I was actually in 2013. I was in Thailand and I
Mm,
was doing some training out there, and they asked me if like there was one night they said, "Hey, you want to fight tomorrow?"
mm,
And I was like, "Well, sure, yeah, I'll fight tomorrow." And I was just out there. I didn't think anything was going to be like official pro record that was going to get put on the books or anything like that. And yeah, the fight I ended up doing was kind of a little more high profile fight there, and I didn't realize till I had got there.
mm,
And it was funny is that my original opponent actually backed out,
mm.
and I got bumped up to like a main event title fight
Oh wow.
against a guy with like a ton of experience. So, I ended up, losing that one. They stopped it for a cut, but really it was when I saw the video later on, it was my coach waving it off to the ref.
Mm,
I just think out there you got to pay for your own stitches and stuff, and I had just only been out there for a week,
mm,
so really he just met me and didn't know me so well, and was just kind of just trying to protect me. So I don't blame him.
mm. Of course. And so, for yourself, now you're fighting this weekend, I believe, in the UFC, and so just for your kind of work weighing to this point and to getting to this point, can you maybe run me through past that defeat, which you just speak about, from the distance between then and now? How did you get to here?
Oh, it was a really rough it was a really rough road actually. It was up and down for a while until about 2019. I started working with the manager a little bit, and I started getting some fights booked through him, and it eventually, that's kind of when I started my win streak.
Mm,
Uh, I eventually signed with that company. It's called Iridium Sports Agency. I signed with them. went on a 4-fight win streak, and then got my shot on Contender Series and won that, and got my contract.
Yeah, indeed. And so, for anybody that doesn't really know, can you kind of run through what the whole kind of Contender Series is like for them?
Yeah, Contender Series is it's similar in the way of the Ultimate Fighter, where you're fighting for a contract, but instead of it being like a dragged out reality show,
Mm-hmm.
it's just one night.
Mm-hmm.
So they have 5 fights one night. You fight in front of Dana and the matchmakers. At the end, they got the winners sitting in some chairs, and they go through each one and let them know if they earned a contract or not. So it's kind of like a working interview.
Mm. Indeed, no, it's something unlike any other kind of sport. You don't really see anything like it, and I suppose how good is it the fact that they get to give so many fighters the opportunity?
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome that they're giving so many fighters the opportunity, but then at the same time, it's it's at this point I feel like it's easier to get into the UFC than it is to stay in the UFC. So now that I'm here, I'm ready to put in the work and show them why they got to keep me here.
Mm. Indeed, that's the mentality you need. And so, of course, got this fight coming up soon. And so, how's in general camp been going for this so far?
Man, this is probably one of my, if not the greatest camp I've ever had. Um, I have all the support. I actually live in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
So the Performance Institute is out there, and I'm so lucky to have that. Yeah, I got signed or whatever, but there are some perks that you get from the Performance Institute, even if you live, you're not local to the area. They can send you food and send you like supplements and stuff, but being able to be there every day, free breakfast, free lunch, free physical therapy, free strength training. They have a whole recovery area, with cryo, red light therapy, sauna area, cold plunge. Man, they really have everything you need, and also they provide you with a nutritionist and things like that. So it's great. I appreciate all the support that I get from the Performance Institute.
Of course, no, that sounds amazing, mate. And so, of course, you've gotten him, and you've gotten a tough opponent for your first UFC fight. And so, you're coming seemingly to his kind of backyard. I believe he is a British fighter. And so, are you not really too fussed about that, and maybe going in and maybe having a few boos or anything like that around you?
Yeah, I'm not too worried about any of that. It's not the first time I fought somebody in their backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Or fought against someone who the crowd was supporting.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it doesn't really affect me too much. And I know he has a lot of experience, but, majority of my fights are against guys with more experience than me. So I'm ready for the challenge.
Good to hear. And so, I suppose for your opponent as a fighter, Danny Roberts, how much do you kind of know him style-wise and that kind of thing? Of course, you don't want to give away too much.
Yeah, I've watched his fights a little bit, man. He's, I'm prepared. I'm prepared for what he has to offer. He's a long-rangey fighter with really good cardio, strong legs. So yeah, I'm ready for the best Danny Roberts.
Mm-hmm. Good to hear. And so, I suppose in the UFC, I mean, in boxing, you kind of hear a lot about like people getting their own kind of paths and routes to get into a world title and stuff like that. But in the UFC, I believe it's a little bit different. I believe you kind of just kind of get a fight and then you work towards that, and then you get another fight and you work towards that, and it's not really a kind of set end goal. But how do you kind of keep yourself motivated and driven?
It's actually really hard. It's actually really hard. I was out with injury for a while because I got signed on Contender Series in October 2001.
Wow.
So I've been out for a little bit, and while I was recovering from my injury, I gained some weight,
Mm-hmm.
and I struggled with getting that weight off for a while. But once the fight got booked, I was able to focus and dial in and do what was needed to be done to be prepared for this fight. So sometimes I think it's just having a goal, having a destination to look forward to, and that makes it way easier to find that focus and discipline.
Most definitely. And so just to kind of speak about the weight, do a lot of fighters, especially in the UFC, you can see quite often them struggle with making weight and stuff like that. Do you yourself find making weight not too much of a difficult task?
Yeah, it could definitely be hard. It can definitely be hard. There's a lot of things you can do to yourself that are going to make it harder on yourself. But seems like these days people are staying leaner and trying to cut less water weight. I've seen plenty of people go up a division. So I think it's probably the better way to do it. What's so great about the UFC is that you weigh in the morning on Friday, so you get more time to rehydrate. A lot of fights on the regional scene, and the smaller promotions, weigh-ins will be kind of in the afternoon and evening.
Yeah.
So you get less time to rehydrate. So that's pretty awesome. We get feels like almost like a whole extra like 8 hours or so to rehydrate.
No, of course, that's definitely an important part. And so for yourself and for your fans coming to watch you in this upcoming fight, what would you say makes yourself interesting as a fighter?
I definitely would say my heart, my ability to stay composed with really strong defense, and also just my Muay Thai style. They're gonna expect to see a lot of kicks, elbows, knees, and a plethora of different strikes coming my opponent's way.
Amazing stuff. And I mean, of course, you're not going to want to overlook this fight, but just kind of for your future aspirations, how far do you believe you can go in the sport?
Really, my goal is to become a double champ. Welterweight champion, lightweight champion, and somehow be able to convince the UFC that they need a 165 division. And let's call it super lightweight. So really, my goal is to one day be the UFC super lightweight champion at 165 pounds. That's the dream.
Of course, yeah. I mean, to be fair, a lot of sports do have that kind of super lightweight, especially boxing has that super lightweight, and of course UFC kind of doesn't. They have a set few, but it would not surprise me. Give it maybe a year or two, then they probably are going to start adding more. It would not surprise me at all.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And so I'll leave with just final question, which I always like to ask. You've got a little bit of a platform here. Would you like to shout anything out?
Shout out Champ X Meals, Insta Cryo, my gym Syndicate MMA, and One Kicks Gym. Also a huge shout out to all the staff at the UFC Performance Institute. Their support is unmatched. And
Brilliant stuff. Alright, thank you very much for doing this, mate, and best of luck with your fight this weekend, and maybe a little bit further along down the line we can come back and have another chat again.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks for having me.
Amazing stuff. And so if you're new around here and you haven't subscribed, please do so. Like the video if you need, like the video, and thanks.